every woman should know her worth. Every woman should understand her value. But I'm going to be real with y'all. The whole knowing your worth, knowing your value can get tricky. And I think it gets tricky because what you're hearing some people argue is essentially the idea that your value is based off of what someone is willing to essentially pay for it, what someone's willing to give for it, right? Not on what we want to think it is. Now, I want to establish something off the top. The idea that it's only based off what someone's willing to pay for it, so to speak. Well, my belief is that the right person for you is willing to pay the price that you deserve. All right. Now, the price you deserve isn't simply about things that you hope and would like, so to speak, but more so about what you need, about character, about being treated right, about being loved, about being poured into, about being invested into. These are the things that say, I value you. These are the things that you deserve as a woman and should not settle for anything less. And so when you are dating or in relationships, you got to understand how to establish your value. Because if you don't see your value, well, no one else will. You know, I have this analogy that imagine you were a car. I know some people don't like being compared to cars, but just work with me here, all right? Let's just say man owns a car dealership and he's selling a Rolls Royce, right? There's going to be people who walk by that Rolls Royce and say, man, that Rolls Royce is too expensive. That's ridiculous. They're crazy. They think anyone's going to pay that kind of money for a car like that. You'll have some people who pass by the Rolls Royce and say, man, that car is beautiful, but I ain't got the money for it. I wish I could, but I can't. But then you're going to have someone or even people who pass by that Rolls Royce and say, here's the money I wanted. When that dealer has to deal with the individuals who either did not see the value of the Rolls Royce or did not have the money for the Rolls Royce, he didn't change the price of the car. He didn't change the value of the product. You see what I'm saying? Because he understood there's someone who is going to step up and pay for that car. Well, that's how I need you as a woman to understand. You don't change your value because this guy don't see it or this guy don't respect it, this guy don't honor it. You have to understand that if you are walking in your true value, because knowing your true value is also knowing that you're tapping into it. Like, here's another, I want to get to these points, but I got another analogy I got to use real quick. So let's use houses. There's a lot of women out there and they are essentially a $1 million home, right? However, in their current condition, they only can sell for $300,000. Why? Because the kitchen needs work. The house needs to be repainted. The floors need to be redone. The house possesses the value of $1 million if it taps into it by doing the work that needs to be done. But that doesn't mean in its current condition it can sell for that. So, yes, I love y'all. But the truth is, for many of you, you still haven't tapped into your full value. You are not maximizing your potential. And in knowing your value, you have to also recognize where you have to improve, what things you have to work on. But do not forget what your true ultimate value is. All right. Now, with that out the way, I want to get into how you now establish your value with men so that you are not getting sold short. You're not getting offers or you're not accepting offers below what you're really worth, right? And you're really receiving what's best for you. So the first way to do this is to understand that not every man is built to see your value. So again, like the analogy I gave with the Rolls Royce, there will be people who pass it and say, this car ain't worth it. There will be people who pass it and say, I like it, but I ain't got the money for it. They are not built or wired or in that current position to embrace and honor and purchase what's in front of them. Majority of men you come across are not built to honor, see, and pay the price of your value. And you have to make sure that you don't let that discourage you. You don't let that throw you off. You understand that's just life. You're not gonna be everyone's cup of tea, and that's fine because everyone's not your cup of tea. All right. You don't like everybody don't like you. That's life. All of us have that. And here's the thing. Even if you are walking in the full potential of your value, there will still be people who just are not built to see it. There are celebrities. I'm not going to name any names, but you can think of a celebrity woman that people go crazy about, right? There are men who will say, she don't do it for me. I wouldn't talk to her. I'd rather this person instead. It don't matter how amazing you are. It doesn't matter how near perfect you are. Everyone's not going to see it. And that's fine. That's not something to be offended by, bothered by, or allow it to cause you to view yourself differently. One of the phenomena I see happen with people in general, but let's focus, of course, on women right now, is a woman could go out, be complimented by 10 men, right? Everyone tell her, oh, you beautiful, you so fine, blah, 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 blah. Guy number 11, and God forbid she actually liked guy number 11 a little bit more than the other 10 who told her she looked good. But guy number 11 paid her no attention or flat out rejected her. She will forget the 10 that complimented her and start to question herself, her value. Is something wrong with me? Maybe I'm not that pretty, because the one guy didn't see it. All right? And so that's why I am stressing this point so much, because you really got to learn how to understand everyone's not built for this. So it's cool. It's fine. But the minute you buy into them not seeing your value and you get caught up in this idea of, well, I'm going to show them how valuable I am, I'm going to prove it to them, and go out of your way, you end up selling yourself short. You end up pulling yourself into a place where now you may look desperate. Now you may look inauthentic. It causes more problems. So rather than trying to now prove yourself, just accept this one ain't for me. All right. So now here's another way for you as a woman to establish your value with men. And that is, you need to be confident and authentic. So let's start with being confident. So there's a great quote I once read that said, confidence isn't about thinking you're going to always get it right. It's about not being afraid to get it wrong. Okay. And the way that I apply that when it comes to dating and relationships is that it's not about thinking everyone's going to like you. It's about not caring when someone doesn't. All right. It's not being bothered by it, not being fazed by it, not being thrown off your game. That's what confidence is. It's accepting yourself, loving yourself, and understanding that, hey, whoever's going to like it, and whoever doesn't. All right. And walking in that confidence. But here's the crazy thing. When you walk with that level of certainty with self and not caring if someone does or doesn't like you, you end up like it naturally increases your value. You naturally start to look like, well, damn, what? She must be something. The way she's carrying herself and the way she views herself, like it starts to feed into people's perceptions of you. You know, and I'm sure you've seen it with men too, where a man sometimes, like, someone doesn't have to be the most amazing looking person. Them having confidence can at least bump them up a little bit. Now, I'm not saying it can completely transform some people. All right. I'm just saying it can give them some points. It can add a couple points to their score. So it can do the same thing for you. And so being confident goes a long way in showing that you know what your value is and conveying that value to people without you having to speak. Because that's the other thing. I said, be confident, not arrogant. And so a good saying with that one is, confidence presents itself, arrogance has to announce itself. All right. It's not about having to prove yourself and say I'm all that or whatever. No, just show up being you and feeling good about you, and let that energy exude, and that spirit will start to flow through others, and they'll see it for themselves. All right. But if you have to be all braggadocious and talking about it and exalt yourself in all these different ways, that really speaks more to insecurity. And it's like, who you trying to convince? You see what I'm saying? You don't really believe what you're saying anymore, but you're just going to say it enough times, hoping that people will believe it and that you'll convince yourself. No, get to a place of true confidence. Now, the second part of it was be authentic. Because here's the thing, and I know for a lot of you ladies, you've seen this with men. You know, a lot of times when individuals refer to a man or a person as lame, part of the reason why is because he's trying too hard or he's being something he's not. And it makes him look weak. It makes him look lame. It makes him look whatever, right? And so a lot of women don't realize that can happen with them as well. When you look like you're trying too hard, when you look like you're not being your true self, maybe the word is not lame that will be used, but it's not attractive. All right. And it doesn't convey value because it conveys you're not sure about yourself. You're not confident or you don't even know who you are. All right. So in being authentic, you got to take time to learn who you are and accept it. I'm a firm believer that for most people, it's not even about discovering themselves. It's about accepting themselves. All right. And part of the reason why we don't accept ourselves is because we're too worried about other people's opinions and society's perceptions of things and all this outside noise that deters us from accepting parts of us and who we truly are. But once we block that outside, the only outside input that truly matters is God. Everyone else, they need to worry about themselves. Plain and simple. All that matters is what God sees you, who God wants you to be, and walking in that. And when you walk in your true, authentic self, and you understand that in this authentic self, again, I have to keep bringing this up. Everyone ain't gonna like you, right? You can be doing everything God wants you to do. Everyone ain't gonna like. Expect people to dislike you. Expect people to talk bad about you. Expect people to try to misconstrue perceptions about you. That's life. There's a lot of envy. There's jealousy. There's a lot of different reasons why that happens. But that should not stop you from walking in your authentic self. And when you do that with that confidence, you will establish your value with not just men, but with people in general. All right, so let's move things along. And the next thing a woman can do to establish her value with a man, and this one is going to be about like something that you're going to have to put effort into, and that's creating peace around you. Now, I felt this was very important to talk about because, you know, you always hear about how to be a man's peace, and I literally have a video about how to be a man's peace. And I do believe in that, right? And I talk about how you have to have peace within yourself. And we're going to talk about that aspect in a second. But I don't think what's talked about enough is creating the peace around you, right? Because the environments that we are in and expose ourselves to can impact what's going on with us from within, can impact our moods, can impact our perceptions, our habits, you name it. They have an influence on us. As well as if I as a man meet you as a woman, and let's just say, man, you're beautiful, you're sweet, you're all these things. However, when I get a glimpse into your environment, it is chaotic. So let's just say toxic friends, toxic family, drama, baby daddy drama, whatever. That's a deterrent. That undermines your value, at least when it comes to a willingness to be with you in a committed relationship. All right. So though someone may see you as, man, she's a great woman, it's like, yo, all this stuff going on is too much. And I think that sometimes we turn a blind eye to the environments that we're in and what we need to do about it. Okay. Now I understand you can't control what other people do. And some situations are somewhat out of your hands. However, I do think for some of you, you have to consider, all right, do I need to completely detach from some people? Okay. For some of you, it's about, do I need to resolve underlying tensions with people? For some of you, that environment is just your home. It's hitting my spirit. I feel the need to say this. Please don't feel judged when I say this. But some of you have a dirty home. All right. An unorganized, messy home. And that chaos around you is affecting you. Not to mention to some men, it can be very unattractive as well. All right. And so learning how to create an environment at home, a more organized, clean environment is going to be hugely beneficial for you, but also, again, it enhances your value because those things are taken into consideration. As well as when we talk about environment and creating peace around you, I want to encourage many of you to look at where you live and ask yourself, does my home pour energy into me that is positive and what I need? Is it peaceful, positive energy? And for some of you to achieve that, it might mean adding some color to your walls or changing the colors of your walls. It might mean simple things like adding some art or a plant or a little trinket, just any little thing. It could be adding candles that maybe you're really big into it and that helps you relax. Consider what you can add to your home environment that will create more peace and positivity, because little do you know or realize that will have a huge impact on you in many ways and on the value that you're able to present to a man. All right. And that becomes a much more attractive environment for a man to want to be a part of and therefore share his life with you. All right. So that brings me to the next point. The next thing a woman can do to establish her value with men is to create peace within you. All right. So we talked about the environment, what's going on around you, your house, all these things. Great. But now it's on the inside too. And this, I want you to look at it from 3 levels: physically, mentally, spiritually. Okay. So when we are creating peace within us, let's start with mentally / emotionally. We'll put those two together. This is where healing comes into place. All right. Making sure that you resolve those past traumas, release those disappointments and hurts and that negative energy, anything that's grabbing hold and weighing your spirit down. Release those things, free yourself from it, forgive. And that, check out the book Love After Heartbreak. It gives you all the steps to healing. All right. The link will be in the description of the comment section. I'll flash it on the screen as well. Check that out because that will help you with the emotional healing part. Now, creating peace mentally is now considering also, what are you pouring into yourself? What are you watching? What are you listening to? All these things have an impact and can pour over into your daily activities, your interactions with men and people in general, and will contribute to how your value is presented and seen. All right. So consider that as well. Now let's go to physical. What are you putting in your body? What are you eating? I'm a big believer in eating for your blood type, but I'm no doctor. So look it up, do your research. You know what I'm saying? I'm also a big believer in plant-based, but the blood type thing will give you some other angles. Either way, look into how you can optimize yourself physically, because people don't realize a lot of things that they're putting in their body, that they're eating, is causing inflammation, is contributing to their anxiety, their stress, their depression, all these things, as well as deficiencies. It could be vitamin D deficiency, all these different deficiencies that create problems. All right. And again, impact how you're able to establish value with a man or in general in life. So take an inventory of how you can improve from a physical standpoint. And then, of course, spiritually, praying, talking to God, gaining direction, just feeding your spirit as much as possible. Now, listen, I'm going to be the one to tell you that this doesn't mean you got to be some perfect believer, perfect woman of God. No, none of us are. Anyone who tells you different, we're not going to get into that. But no one is, all right? No one is. So it's not this, I have to be perfect, but are we making progress? Are we growing? Are we improving in certain areas? Even if we haven't completely mastered it, all right, how can we get better? How can we connect more with God? How can we get more in tune with our spirit? How can we learn to listen to our intuition more? Because I do believe intuition is the extension of the spirit, or is the spirit. It's just a different name for it. How do we cultivate those things? Because all of that will create more peace from within and exude a greater value of self. All right. So we got a couple more to go, or a few more to go. Either way, let's continue. The next thing on the list on how a woman can establish her value with men is by not accepting less than you deserve. All right. What undermines, or one of the big things that undermines a woman's value in the eyes of a man, is when you tolerate nonsense. And mind you, whether that's tolerate nonsense from another man or tolerate nonsense from that man, because understand that sometimes people are watching, all right, or people are talking and they're hearing things. And when you accept nonsense, that can get around in some situations. Of course, some of y'all gonna meet someone who has no idea what you had going on with anybody else, but those things can have an impact. So you got to be mindful of that and understand that you have to stand strong in what you deserve. Now, I want to be clear. When I say what you deserve, listen, let me say this. I've seen some videos where women take issue with the type of restaurant a man takes them to on a date, right? And will say, well, can't take me to some, I don't want to say the restaurant's name, because I ain't trying to make them sound bad. But you can't take me to this type of restaurant. It has to be this fancy restaurant. To me, that doesn't speak to what you, like, to me, we're crossing certain lines. It doesn't mean that you can't want what you want, but how important is that really? When I speak about what you deserve, I'm focusing more on like the intangibles, how he talks to you, how he treats you, how he pours into you, how he shows up for you, how he is dependable to you, his loyalty to you. All these things to me speak to him giving you what you deserve. All right. But of course, people are going to have their preferences. They're going to have their desires, and we won't get into that right now. But the point is, at the very least, you don't want to, from those intangibles that I just listed, you don't want to accept less than that. Because the thing is, when you start to accept less than that, it's not only are you undermining your value, but you're essentially saying to this man, this is acceptable, this is okay. And then what can happen is, it's like, okay, to give an analogy, you're a boss, you hired this person at work, and they start coming to work late, and you keep letting that slide. Well, now, a lot of times, it won't just stay at coming to work late, because now they feel like, oh, she gonna let me get away with that? All right, well, now I'm slacking with my work. Now I'm taking longer lunch breaks. Now I'm breaking all kinds of other rules, and it all started with because you did not establish or enforce the rule of you gotta show up to work on time. You see what I'm saying? So when you start to let him slide on certain bad behaviors, it could then turn into more bad behaviors. And I don't want that for you. So you want to make sure you don't accept those things. Now, that does not mean at the first sight of him falling short that you cut him off and you're done. No, I always say, you just don't see a red flag and run. You see it, you address it. And if it cannot be corrected, let him go. Because sometimes it's a misunderstanding. Sometimes it's a mistake. Sometimes it's just, all right, maybe it was more lackadaisical in his previous relationship. He didn't understand how important this was to you. But now that has been communicated and he's serious about you, he is willing to make the necessary adjustments. So be willing to have those conversations. But once it's been discussed and it's still not being corrected, you cannot tolerate that. It's time to go, move in the direction, and hold on to what your value is and what you truly deserve. So, next on the list of things a woman can do to establish her value with men is to show that you are open to correction and growth. So, let's use an analogy again, all right? If you're house hunting, something that gives a house more value is the ability to enhance the home. Like when there's room for, all right, I could add this, I could do that, and the values is going to keep going up higher, and we're able to work with this home, that makes it more appealing. Okay? And so the same thing can happen in relationships. Not that we should be getting with each other with focusing on what we can turn the individual into. No, I don't want to get that misconstrued. But more so just understand that I have someone who is open to learning, open to growing with me, opening to, tapping into our full potential together. And we have to be open to constructive criticism. We have to be open to that correction when it comes our way. And the reality is that a lot of men complain about women not holding themselves accountable or not accepting accountability. Now, of course, I'm sure there's tons of you who are going to say that's what men do. Men don't accept accountability. I ain't arguing. It's happening on both sides. Okay. We're not going to get into who does it more or whatever. It definitely happens on both sides. But we have to recognize that, yes, it does happen with a lot of women. Whether that applies to you or not, I don't know. But it does happen with a lot of women. And you probably know a lot of women who they dodge accountability like, I don't know what. They just don't accept it. And that is a deterrent to someone wanting to join together with you and share life with you. All right? Because you can no longer feel comfortable talking to them about certain things. You feel like they're going to be stuck in their ways. There's no room for improvement when things are noticed. That's just not a healthy place to be. It's not a desirable place to be. So as a woman, when you can show that you know how to humble yourself in a way that says, and again, not humble in undermining your value, but humble in saying, I know there's always room for me to get better. All right. And more specifically, because understand this, we can come into a situation with a partner and be amazing, great people who have worked on ourselves and all these things. But there's always going to be small little details that we have to understand about each other to make sure that we come into full harmony with each other. So this is hitting my spirit, so I feel the need to mention this. And I will say now, this applies more to when you're married. Not more. This applies to when you're married, but we all know that these things go down even before marriage. That's your choice. I'm not telling you that you should. I'm acknowledging it. And we're talking about intimacy. We're talking about sex. All right. And the reason why I bring it up is because what I've seen on both sides, men and women, is they go into it feeling like, oh, I know what I'm doing. Oh, I'm good at what I do, right? And they shut off any ability to receive constructive criticism from their partner and understand that even if you are known to be a great lover and know what you're doing in the bedroom, it doesn't mean everything will apply to your future husband or wife, all right? Or current husband and wife. You have to understand that you have to be willing to learn what they like and what flows with them and not take it as some kind of personal attack on you or your skills or anything like that. No, it's just how life is, And when we learn how to have that mentality in all aspects of our relationships, we can make things so much better. So to wrap up this point, bottom line is when you can show you're a woman who is open to correction and improvement, you show great value to a man. All right. And so one more strong reason or way for a woman to establish her value with men is to be the woman God wants you to be. So we talked about being your authentic self earlier, and this kind of plays into it. But I mean, to me, it goes hand in hand if you are a believer, because being your authentic self is being the person that God wants you to be. And when you are able to walk in that, it's easier now for you to be that confident person. It's easier for you to now remain in your authentic self and not deviate or try to be something that you're not. It's easier for you to now remember what your value is and not accept less because you know what God wants for you and what God would say is not acceptable for you to be entertaining and engaging in. All right. And so by getting more in tune with your spirit, more in tune with God, it is easy. It allows you to walk in the fullness of who He created you to be. This is I'm having a few hit my spirit moments this video. And I ain't gonna lie, this one I'm a little afraid to say, but I gotta say it. And remember, I love y'all. And remember, I'm never trying to hurt feelings or offend. I know some of y'all feel like I apologize or I do too much of this, softening the blow too much, but I feel like I just got to because I never want people to take things the wrong way. Many of you need to ask God if you're truly walking in your true self. Dang, I hate saying this. with your weight. Please, again, don't be mad at me. Don't think I'm trying to, and I'm not telling you what your size should be. But I remember one time I was speaking to a friend, and I had told him at that time, this is many years ago, they were struggling with dating and stuff. And I said, well, I really want you to consider getting to a healthy weight. And they were a little offended by it. And they was like, well, no one's ever told me that before. No one's ever told me I needed to do anything about my weight. And I said, okay, I hear you. But rather than even like looking at it as in, did anyone tell you that before, me telling you that right now, why don't you ask God where you're at? And ask God if where you're at is where he wants you to be when it comes to that. And please understand that that question is not about your physical presentation completely. It's about the impact it's having on your health. It's about the impact it's having on your confidence. It's about the impact it's having on your mood. I had a woman one time reach out to me and she said, please do a video one day about this. And I plan on actually doing a full video, really diving into all of this. But she said she was someone who, thought, no one should ever have anything to say about your weight or anything like that. And she's fine how she was, but she was struggling with dating. And then she said, I forgot what was the catalyst, but she eventually went on to losing a bunch of weight, getting a lot healthier. And she actually ended up getting married. And she said, it wasn't just, well, now she's getting all these men coming at her and she ends up finding her husband. She says she noticed she went from being like grumpy to being more positive. She went from being low energy to being more enthusiastic and energetic. Like these are things that the majority of people experience. Now, again, I am not here to tell you what the weight should be, what you need to look like specifically. I'm telling you to go to God about it. But what I am saying is that getting our health in order can have an amazing impact in so many different ways. And I think that sometimes we just assume that God's like, you good the way you are. And we don't ever address that aspect of it. But we need to. And I'm going to even say for myself, at one point, my issue wasn't, it was a little bit of weight, even though to the outside world, it wouldn't be that way. But trust me, it was. But more so, it was the impact it was having on my fatigue levels. Okay. And me being on tour and I'm always tired. And I remember someone saying to me, man, you're always tired. And that made me like say, dang, okay, what's going on? Because I always just accepted it as I'm just a tired person. It is what it is. But no, it wasn't I'm just a tired person. It was I'm not healthy. And I prayed and I that's what actually was one of the catalysts to me doing a 7-day fast. And I'm not telling y'all to jump to 7 days, though I do believe fasting is powerful and amazing and everyone should consider it. But that was partly what led me to the fasting, then detoxing. And then that really opened me up to the world of health and changing my diet and all these different things. And I've done a complete 180 from where I was before in so many different ways. So I just want to encourage that, again, with love. Talk to God about it. It's between you and him, whatever it needs to be and whatever you need to do. I just want you to be able to have that conversation and find out if there's any improvements you need to make. But all in all, understand that you deserve the best that God has for you. And I pray that you receive it. And I pray that this message resonates with you in a way that inspires you to tap into your full potential. Thank you for watching this video. I pray it was helpful to you. Be sure to watch this one over here on 5 things every woman needs to know about men. However, would you rather just continue waiting for him and hoping that he'll come to this conclusion, or make it easy and let him know and then he can provide you what you're looking for?